All right, everybody, we're gonna start getting going here. We got a few more minutes. I like to give it till 12:05 to let everybody get in, but I wanted to go ahead and get kind of started because I'm very excited to talk to you, Manny. Thank you for being on. We got to recently meet at your event at the Fern Bank here in Atlanta for NAHREP Atlanta. You're the president, right?
Yes, I'm the president of 2021. Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, obviously somewhere between half virtual, half in person. It's been a real fun journey.
What has that been like? Because you came on like during the pandemic. So what has that been like for you, like having to be half virtual? Like, I'm sure you had all these ideas and then you were like, well, I kind of have to adjust now with the climate of the world,
Absolutely. Well, one of the crazy things, we always push boundaries at in Atlanta. There's about 108 chapters in the organization. And so one of the things we did is we strayed from the traditional Zoom that everyone was doing. And we decided to kind of help boost a little bit our local economy and our huge base of our clients. And we actually went, Hollywood is what I'm calling it. We actually went to film in studio events. So because we were allowed to gather, in groups of 10, we had a film crew, went into one of these studios, actually down in its Live World Studios. And they let us, camera, lights, the whole thing. It was a cool alternative. It created for a different type of event and panel, much more intimate, a lot more kind of in depth. So yeah, there's always a solution to things, and that's how we took it.
That's actually how this Empower Our Live came about, because when COVID hit, EPM was like, how do we make people feel connected and like to get through this? And so we started using lots of virtual events. So yeah, you took advantage of a crappy thing, right? And it's some good could come out of it. But
lemonade.
But I just want to say, September 15th, so just 2 days ago, we entered in National Hispanic Heritage Month. And this lasts until October 15th. And this is a time, a month period where we recognize the contributions and influences of Hispanic Americans to the history, culture, and achievements in the US. But celebrating culture is not particularly difficult. It is something that we do every day. It permeates everything that we do and who we are, but this is just a month-long period where we put it on the rise. So Manny, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to hear from you, and I'm going to turn it over to you. So this is Empower Our Live, Friday, I gotta look at the time, 17th of September. We've got Manny on, and we are gonna get started. So first things first, Manny, tell us who you are. Tell us about your journey.
Absolutely. So, well, I am Manny Recinos. I am, as we spoke about, president of NAHREP Atlanta this year. I'm a realtor with Palmer House Properties, and I'm originally from Los Angeles. My family is from El Salvador, so Salvadoreños, any Salvadoreños in the house. But yeah, so that is, where I was born and raised pretty much. We did move right before my senior year of high school. So sometimes people are like, oh, what's the biggest struggle you've had? And I'm like, listen, it's not really a struggle. However, it was pretty traumatic at the time. To just pick up and move from, junior year right before senior and move to, of all places, Snellville, Georgia, which I have come to have a love for. But at first it was like, with streets like Rosebud and Sugarloaf, I literally told my friends, I was like, I don't know if y'all know this, but like there's a game called Candyland. And I was like, I feel like I moved into a board game. It's completely different. But that was pretty crazy.
That's crazy. I did not know you lived in Snellville. I grew up like 2 towns over.
Oh, where at?
You've probably never heard of it, but Social Circle. So it was like Snellville, Loganville, Monroe, like around Monroe area. That's where I grew up.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar. And my parents have stayed up there. So they're in the Lawrenceville area. I did not go to Brookwood. My brother and sister did. My parents actually built a house in Lawrenceville, right next to that Brookwood area. But I went to South Gwinnett for that 1 year. But yeah, so that was, that was a bit of a journey. And it's funny because it relates even to our conversation now, because I was a little bit of a different person in that environment. I was still like involved. I was like secretary for our class, and I was involved with student government and all that. I was on the prom planning committee, so you can imagine again the pain when I don't get to go to the prom that I helped plan. So that was crazy. But I moved to Georgia, and there was a year of transition for sure. But after that, it just you learn to make the best out of it, right? So it gave me this different kind of perspective, whole different place. Moved from LA to the South, a whole different vibe. Learn to work with different types of people. And I mean, it was just, you can link these experiences to growth, with so many different places in your life. But so that happened, moved to Georgia, ended up staying because as much as I complained and told my parents that I was going back to USC, going to college out in Cali, I couldn't leave them that far behind. We're super close. So ended up at Berry College in Rome, Georgia. Small school, if you're not too familiar with it, but it ended up being a completely different experience than what I thought I was going to do. Thought I was going to be in the big, USC campus, 200 people per classroom. Ended up in a 30 person per classroom. If you were 2 minutes late, people knew, and on the largest campus in the world at the time. So it was completely crazy. And ended up staying in Georgia, moved to Atlanta, and I started investing in real estate a year out of college. That was a goal of mine. My on flipping homes, and did a little bit of real estate in LA, then carried it over to Georgia. So I knew a little bit of it, and I'm very grateful and privileged to have that knowledge of it before, I went into it. So that's how it all started. I started investing for about 7 years, and then carried over contacts, friends, family, social media, into my real estate career now that I'm an agent.
At what point did you have a different dream when you were young, and then because a lot of people say they fall into mortgage or real estate, right?
I think in my whole life, I've only heard one person that said they actually wanted to be a real estate agent. And that's because apparently they had a really fabulous uncle or something like that, that just killed it in the game and drove the cars. And they were like, that's why I want to become a real estate agent. Right. But no, most people do fall into it. I actually was pre-law. In college, it was since middle school, I'd been doing programs where we went to DC and all that. So that was the trajectory. And I got very lucky through Barry. I was connected with one of the partners at Alston and Bird, which is one of the largest firms in the nation. And that was, I thought I was going to do power law, 100%. Golden spiral staircase at their Atlanta, office. I was excited. And I went in, and it was the best thing I could have ever done, was do that internship for 4 or 6 months. And I saw the life that they were living. And honestly, the happiest person I met was the front desk assistant, because they clocked in and clocked out and they were happy. But everyone from associate to partner, it's a different lifestyle. It's a different drive. It's a different thing that keeps you motivated. They were, what I always say is that was the one job where I would go in, and the partner, who's who you want to become, is there before you get there as even an assistant, and is there after you leave as, an assistant. I mean, it's insane. And some of the things I saw, I just said, quality of life wasn't lining up, and I decided to put it on hold for a year. Yeah, that's kind of how it happened. I eventually, because I started investing in real estate and really sharing it on social media, people started following and wanted tips, and I was helping friends go out just searching for homes for fun, because I loved it. And I have an incredible agent, broker, shout out to Justin Ziegler, who brought me on and was an incredible agent at the time. And now, here I am 10 years later working with him. So that's how it all kind of happened.
That I have so many questions that I want to get to. So many things. So you move from LA to Snellville, Georgia. You go to South Gwinnett. Then you go out even further.
Yeah.
Berry College, right? You said Berry because my computer glitched. I want to make sure I heard that right.
Berry College. Yep.
Okay. So what was that like? So you're already oh my God, my senior year of high school, I am completely leaving everything I know, right? From LA, which is totally different than, if I wish y'all understood what Snellville was. So,
in Gwinnett County, it's on the map, especially in real estate. So most people probably do know. I mean, that area, Lawrenceville, Snellville, I mean, yeah, especially when I moved, I mean, not to age myself, but yeah, that was what, 10, 11 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that. it was a little bit of a change. But again, you make the best of it. I mean, it still met great people even in that year.
Yeah.
I won't lie, I got introduced to football, which I had never really followed. I was a LA Galaxy type fan in LA, but like moving here, I'd never even been to a football game. It's incredible. You get to just meet so many different types of people, and that was the plus. Right now, looking back, 2020, it's easier to say that. At the time, of course, I was sitting there with matches like, I will burn down the house.
Yeah, it's totally different. You're not 18, right? When you get some perspective. That's what I was saying. Like recently, I was saying something about like, God, I wish, like, I thought this was like the end of the world when I was 18, because at the time it's like all I knew. But now it's like you get perspective and you're like, God, I can move through that. And it's like you said, you do make the best of a situation. So I, Manny, have known about you. So I worked here at EPM for the last year, and I've seen and watched you from afar, knowing who you were. Behind, without really getting to introduce myself to you until recently. And watching you work, and not, it's been so awesome because you have such a passion, and you are so personable, and you are so kind to everyone that you meet, and you're so like real. And I love that. So I just want to commend you on your ability to be you in a very bigger sense. And so, but sorry, I'm giving you all the love, and my mind is glitching. But one of the things at EPM, that we have 4 core values, and one of them is struggle well, which is about, how do you overcome adversity and struggle well, right? Like, how do you give yourself grace? How do you recover? How do you do these things? So I know we talked about, you took that internship, you took a break there, and you kind of moved on. You were like, this is, but can you tell us about a time that you struggled well and you came over it and came through it? Like, can you just give us, some insights into you and how you came through it, something we can take away from your story?
Yeah, interestingly, and I'm sure it's kind of where it goes, it's more of a personal, journey. Because I think when things are good, when things are fun, when you're, I don't know, you're dating the right person, when you've got your family around you, things are usually going to be, on the up and up until they're not, right? So for me, I guess that, I mean, as you bring up that struggle, to me, it was more of a personal thing that happened. It was a relationship, 6.5 years. Things were great when they were great. And then just, didn't work out. Nothing crazy dramatic, but didn't work out. And there was a whole reset that had to happen. Funny enough, that reset was what pushed me finally to jump on real estate. I actually when I didn't do law, I ended up relying on I double majored in college. So I did pre-law, and luckily I did Spanish as a major as well. I wanted to really make sure I explored the culture, the, art and literature, and proper business Spanish, not just the Spanglish that I was speaking in LA, So that luckily took me on a different journey, and I ended up in the IT world, which I was really good at and I loved, because I'm really big on attention to detail. I guess that's from the law and reading and all that, I was able to carry that over into that. And I ended up at a really great job, really good pay. But when everything kind of started deteriorating, and that struggle that we're talking about in that private life, it affects everything. And I wasn't very happy at work. I wasn't very happy with my friendships. I wasn't very happy. Obviously, relationship wasn't great. So that turned into, what do I do to overcome this? And I'll be honest with you, I hit the reset button, as many people do. I'm a big traveler, so I took 3 months and went to Europe. I said, all right, quit my job. Let's figure out what I'm going to do next. It was honestly, for me, it was between real estate and event planning. I love event planning. I love putting together events, and, whether it's corporate or weddings or quinceañeras, I mean, I just love the joy of like it all coming together and just turning into this incredible moment. So, and then there was real estate, and I was trying to figure out, I have a huge love for it. I do it as investing. And I already had a little bit of a following from social media, people that saw me buying. I can't tell you the amount of college friends that said, hey, how are you buying your house this first year? How are you buying it well, it was like a year and a half in, right? And luckily there was a little bit of me setting myself up, but there was also a lot of just, I had knowledge that people didn't have, and I wanted to be able to spread that. So that, I think, was the struggle, is figuring it out. And luckily I chose real estate, and it just has turned into the best of all the worlds, because I get to do a little bit of all of that now,
Right.
and definitely get to turned it into something where I feel extremely happy helping that family get, whether it's that first home or, getting into investments, because I come from a family that invests. And so, I mean, people don't have that knowledge and I get to share it. So it's incredible.
Yeah. Putting you on the spot right now. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but this is the hot seat. So I hope you're ready.
All right.
Can you give some tips? So, we work at a mortgage company here. Thank you, Ray, for being on with us at EPM. You were here recently, even this week at our home office. So, I was like, Manny. uh, so, can you give us some tips? So I think that's really fascinating. If I had known you when I started college, I would have been like, how? That's overwhelming to me that you could start this investments, right? And then how would I get my first home? Like all these things. And personally, I don't own a home, right? And it seems overwhelming. And even though we work at a mortgage company, the process can still be overwhelming. So could you give us 3 or 4 tips that you give away on what we could do, or how we can, if we want an investment property, or, how do we
Yeah.
started. I'm gonna
Well,
write it down.
one of my core things I say is always make the ask. If you don't ask, you never know. So since you don't own a home yet, I will tell you right now, I'm going to help you with your first home. So it's done. I'm asking you right now. I'll be your realtor. So
Okay.
that's actually one thing I have learned throughout. We'll talk about that later. But all right, as far as you're talking about, how do we get people that don't have, how do we get people excited about it? How do we get past the overwhelming feeling? Is that?
Or yeah, just what would you say? Like if I was like, hey man, this is overwhelming to me, and the fact that you can do all of this, like how did you do it? Like where did you start? Like that.
So that question was asked to me, like I said, a million times, and I got really lucky. It was it's a cluster of just things coming together. So one, yes, I did have the preparation from my parents that already were in that world. They already taught me how to save up for that. They taught me how you really, if you don't need to rent, you shouldn't rent. So if you have the opportunity to buy, why are you paying this money, monthly towards something that is not going to give you anything, as no fruits to that. So that was one. And the second one, the way I would answer that question to people is one step at a time. And I'll tell you right now, it was always something I was able to answer because my realtor and I created a team around me that worked. We found, and this is what I've carried into my business, and one of the reasons I went into it was I found that it was all so much easier when I knew the whole team that was going to be around me for it. So of course I met my agent, interviewed a couple agents, ended up with my agent, Justin. And then from there, he introduced me to, his amazing lender and then his amazing closing attorney. And that helped with the comfort factor because Justin knew that the handoff was going to be smooth. So he handled, hey, listen, this is what buying a house means. This is how it works. We're going to go search. Before that search, guess what? We got to get you with a lender. However, I'm going to partner you with someone that I know is going to treat you just like I do, who's going to be open to the questions, who understands how important all that is. And then when it came time for the attorney, same thing. When it came time for the insurance person, same thing. I was given these contacts that he had built around himself. And I definitely took that. So when you're talking about, someone that was, who's scared or whatever, I always said, don't worry, man, I'm going to introduce you to this agent. He's awesome. Any questions you have, like he'll answer. Same thing with the lender. And that I think was the biggest thing that made it easier. Because it is slightly overwhelming, but when you can, what's the word? Compartmentalize all of them into small steps, that I think is the way to do it. And that's what I do with clients, when they are their first time home buyer or they're young. I love working, with people that just, got that first job, and how do we prepare you for that? But they think they already have to start looking at homes and like, what are they going to do with taxes and how are they going to, no. Let's one step at a time. You're not even there yet. Let's get you there.
That was one of the things that when I first started working here at EPM that I was told, which was, don't even look for houses yet. That's like the last thing you do. And I was like, what? I thought you had to have a house first, in mind. And that's not it. It's like you have all these steps you got to get to. It's like these things. But that's so awesome. Thank you so much. And I kind of want to go back again. Like I said, I have a lot of questions for you. And so I'm going to circle back. Liz, though, she said that she loves a event coordinating Quincy's. I actually starting one now. She loves it. So
I'm
You and
keeping
Liz.
an eye on you. I'm keeping an eye on you, Liz. I see you in the chat over
I
here.
know y'all need to connect, Liz. You got to find him on Instagram, or what's your favorite social media platform?
Uh, Instagram. I mean, they're owned by the same now, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely, I mean, that could be a whole different class, right? But yes, I do a lot of social media. I love it. It takes up a lot of time. You got to be focused on it and be intentional. But yeah, I think I like probably Instagram a little more, but Facebook has been incredible for business and connections. So that's what I used Facebook probably more than LinkedIn. That's probably the better comparison, because I know LinkedIn works so well for some, but for me, I mean, I keep these business connections through my Facebook as well.
right. I think because you make on Facebook, you can be just a little bit more personal.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Instagram is right. It's the visual. I'm showing you who I am versus telling you how we connect. So,
I'm gonna
yeah,
post everything I'm eating for dinner on Instagram. So just be aware.
right. Yeah, I love it. Your pool parties and your dancing and your singing.
Need the
Okay,
Instagram
so
first.
I'm gonna throw out some questions again. I want to keep the conversation around like this idea that I want to come. I didn't know that you had moved from LA to
Yeah.
Georgia, right? At such a young age, 16 or 17, somewhere
Mhm.
around there, 18 maybe. You're
Yeah.
very young.
17, yeah.
Yeah. Like about to be a senior, you're thrown into a world you don't know. Now you said it's been like 16 years. I'm doing the math. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I just made you a little bit older. I'm sorry. You said it was 14 years or something like that since you did that. What would you say now, right, to that 16 or 17-year-old self that you were then, who felt displaced, taken out of their comfort zone, really dropped in a world that really, I'm sure you had so many thoughts and stigmas about Georgia itself, like what am I coming to, right? What would you say to that 17 or 16-year-old now and by who you are now?
Oh man, that's a deep
That's a
question.
deep
Yeah.
question.
You just hit
Yeah,
me with it.
I
Uh,
know.
definitely should have had lunch before this then. Uh,
You don't
no,
have to answer if you don't want to.
no, absolutely. No, it's a great question. I think as I'm thinking real quick off the top, I think the biggest is
Right.
chase happiness, right? Which, funny enough, I mean, at that moment it was traumatic, but I was very privileged, very lucky. I had an incredible family around me. So I mean, again, dramatics aside, I think I always felt like things were for the better. The move was for a reason. My parents lived in LA. They landed in LA when they immigrated to the US, and they built, a little bit there, but of course it's a way different quality of life, type of life, amount of sacrifice. My mom was a nurse working, night shifts. My dad had his own painting business. On the side, they were doing investments and, small investments, but investments. And so even then, I was able to see that this was for the best. They told me, they didn't just up and move us for no reason. There was definitely a big reason behind it. It was the market there was pretty volatile and crazy at the time. I mean, this was 2003. I mean, just things seemed, it was a whole cluster of things, but they knew why they made the move. My brother and sister, who are younger, were about to enter middle school and elementary school. So it was perfect for them. And later in life, actually, we've had chats about it with my parents, and we talked about that time. And they said, here's the deal. We knew of the three of you, you could handle it. They were like, we knew you were going to overcome this. It was going to be traumatic for you. We knew it was, but you have the personality that could overcome it. And it did. And actually it helped shape me. So what I would tell my, that younger person would be, yeah, I mean, you will persevere through it and just chase happiness, because that luckily is what I ended up doing. I've thought many times, what would have happened if I had gone to law school and been stuck in that world that I just, because even now I look at my life and I'm very happy to be able to do things like this from my home. You know what I mean? Or do the events that we partner with, or the events that we do for NAHREP. I mean, that's what really brings joy to me, and being able to be in an industry where you also make a change is just, a big deal for me. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then you find your way to NAHREP, right?
Yeah.
So that's another story in and of itself. So we'll go into what is NAHREP? So for who are watching that don't know, what is NAHREP and how did you get there and what are you doing?
Absolutely. So NAHREP is the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. It is a national organization, obviously, about 108, over 100 chapters across the US. Huge network. And the mission is to promote sustainable, and that's kind of the key word, sustainable Hispanic homeownership. The word sustainable is important to me because my goal is not, or the goal of NAHREP, the mission is not to go out and find that Latino client to buy a house from me. That is my job as an agent. That's my passion as a Latino agent, and that is what I went into the field for. However, NAHREP takes it a step above, and NAHREP does sustainable homeownership by partnering with people at the top. We want a seat at the table, and that's not always easy to get. So I had that experience when I was buying and selling and flipping and then, all of that stuff. I would sit at the closing table, and I had many a time, because I focused in Gwinnett properties. So I had many a time where I was sitting across from a Latino buyer of my property or a Latino seller. And I can't tell you the amount of times that they either had an agent who they couldn't fully communicate with, or, and this was the worst, was they would have a Spanish speaking agent. They would have someone on their side. However, they ended up connecting them with a English speaking lender, and we're sitting at the closing table with an English speaking attorney. And I just, I would hear questions from the buyer in those situations, and they'd say, wait, I never saw this. Wait, what's the mortgage? I mean, when you're asking, what is the mortgage? That's really scary to hear from someone that's buying your house who looks like you, and you've had experiences like your uncle. And I mean, it reminds you of your family sitting at that table. And if that was my family member, I'd be very scared for them. The same way that we get to create wealth and really push people forward with real estate is the same way that we can put them in very, very scary situations. And I think we need to be aware of that. So I've heard about NAHREP, and I know that it needed to change, didn't need to come from the client. The client's just doing their best. It didn't need to be me out on the streets trying to get more buyers. It needed to be me talking to these attorneys, talking to the presidents of banks and presidents of companies, mortgage companies, and sitting with the presidents or the heads of these inspection companies, and letting them know why it's important to make sure that they have things that cater to the Spanish speaking or Latino community. We're a completely different type of client, and there's no denying that. From not just language barrier, because there has been progress towards that. I mean, in the last 10 years, I've seen the progress in that. We're starting to see documents in Spanish language and things like that. But we're a completely different client in the sense of how we do business. What we expect, how we ask questions, what questions we're too afraid to ask. These are all things that we need to learn. And until you have someone in front of you kind of explaining that, if you're not in those circles as president of XYZ, who's teaching you that? How will you know it? So that's why this organization spoke volumes to me, and why I got involved with NAHREP.
I'm going to throw some statistics out at you. Okay. I sat on this panel a few months ago or something, and it was called Nuevo Latino. And it was about like the Latino demographic, right? The Latinx demographic. So here's my little notes from that. Okay. I put in my little notes here, but I'm going to throw some things at you. And this is really for the people watching more than you. So this is what you're saying, this need for education, right? So from 2009 to 2019, the Latinx demographic accounted for 51.6% of total US homeownership growth in US, right? So that was 51.6%. In 2019, 4.9 million Latinx consumers were considered mortgage ready. I want to know how many actually purchased the home versus who didn't, but 4.9 were considered mortgage ready. The median age of the Latinx consumer is 29 and a half, as opposed to 44 in other demographics. So it's a bit younger. Expected power of the Latinx is to top 2.3 trillion by 2024. We are a mortgage company, so I feel this is important for us. But also, The market or the demographic is driven by US born citizens, not immigrants. And 75% of the people for this survey, for the census, said tradition stays a part of their culture. The motto is what's good for my family is good for me.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to say that out there for those watching. So thank you for, being on again, but
Yeah.
we have to update our models to include more, to expand, and to be more inclusive of people, of a really big group of people, right? And so thank you for getting in there and doing this. You're like, I'm doing this, you say you're doing this you're like, I see, like, this is scary situations to be in. And so I feel like you kind of live this motto, what's good for my family is good for me. And by your family, it's like, the people
Yeah, my gente.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I love this. So you're an advocate, you're a voice, and you're an educator for everyone. You're
Well,
getting
I mean,
in tough
listen,
situations.
thank you so much. And those stats, I don't want them to fall on deaf ears. They're really important stats. And
Right.
maybe you can, if anyone needs them, obviously they can reach out to you and get those, they're great stats to use when you're talking to clients or you're talking to partners, business partners. But yeah, so here's the thing. We hear those stats, and what you have to realize is two things. Either you're going to get excited about the growth of Latinos in this country because you find a connection with that culture, or being able to look at a demographic that may not be yours and get excited about it and know that there's a lot of value there. And if you don't, and here is where sometimes we have to find different ways to get people excited about something, right? So if that isn't it, if it's not a passion, if it's not a love, if it's not coming from the gushy, fun, great stuff, then let's hit you with business. Are you going to be the person that is going to sit in an industry that is going to eventually go this way and just turn your eyes away from it and act like it's not going to happen? There's actually a stat. NAHREP does an annual report of statistics. We don't have to wait until census because they put a lot of time and money towards this annual report, which you can find on nahrep.org, nahrep.org. And I'm not selling that because it's my organization. I'm telling you because that is the most incredible report that I've ever seen. If you're looking for any trends into statistics, specifically with Latinos. But one of them is that within the next 20 years, 70% of new homeowners will be Latino. That stat is incredible. And I don't care if you care about Latinos or not. If you care about your business, you better have a way to move forward with that. Same thing as 15 years ago, we were talking about tech, right? Things were going to be on your phone. Things were going to be things like if you weren't investing in that, guess what? Your business is probably dead right now, So it's the same idea. So if you're not gonna, this is something I present to people. If you're not getting serious about it because of the gushy and the fun, you better be getting serious about it because of business. So that stat alone is very exciting for NAHREP, right? 70% of new home buyers will be Latino in the next 20 years. However, and this is where organizations like NAHREP are important because we have to stay forward thinking even beyond that, right? So we finally get to a place where Latinos will have a big part of the voice and the buying power and a piece of the pie. But what if there aren't homes for us when that finally happens? That is why we need to think outside of just our own little, communities and organizations, and why these chats and conversations are important. NAHREP isn't just for Latinos. That's another big, thing that people get confused. It's about bringing everyone together. And the reason is because all of us are going to be affected by the things that Latinos will be in the future, like not having enough homes on the market, lack of inventory is a big deal. And that's something we're all starting to talk about now because we're seeing it, we're living through it. So it all correlates in so many ways, but those facts and those statistics are important to have on hand.
And I'm coming from a place of gushiness. So I just want to, no, for me, I'm just like, more people love people. I want to know everyone. So that's wonderful. So how can we at EPM better ourselves for this growth, right? Like, how can we do what needs to be done?
Yeah. So specifically with EPM, I'll tell you right now, I posted this on my socials. I said I was honored to be on, y'all's empowerment hour. And the reason is because I have been working with EPM for, God, over 4 years now. And a lot of that, the deep connections with EPM started when I was involved with as events director for NAHREP. I started with events, started putting together the events, and EPM was one of those companies that was always there to support. I have known Eddie for Eddie Perez, obviously, for a long time, and this comes from the heart. I have been inspired by that man, every time we have a chat, pretty much. You guys know how inspiring and how motivating he can be. But apart from that, he puts his money where his mouth is. You guys see it at your company. I see it when, I bring in a newbie, a new realtor to the industry. And part of the tour is, some of the other things that you guys do to help the community, not just, hey, we can do your, we can help your client. Yeah, there's that part, but we can also walk into a room where you guys are, working with a bunch of different other types of sponsoring teams and doing the, I'm horrible at gaming, but I think gaming, you guys have that connection with you're giving people opportunities, and that is a huge part of supporting the community. So that's, community period. EPM has always been there with NAHREP. That's another reason that obviously we have such a strong connection. And like I said, I mean, or like I say to any person that comes to either try to sponsor or become a member, and that is, we don't need, I mean, if you can bring money to the table, that's great. If you can sponsor in that way, that's great. But I, as president, am someone who's looking at the time that you're devoting, the people that you're sending. Are you bringing your partners to events like this? That's the stuff that really can matter, sometimes even a little more than the money. We need that. These organizations are nonprofits. I'm not getting paid to do any of it. We have to look to sponsors to be able to host these incredible events that we do at the Fox Theater, at the World of Coke, at Truist Park. I mean, we do it all over the place, but it takes that money for sure. But I'm telling you right now, I get the warm and gushies, like we were talking about, when I'm at the event and I see, a lender of mine, a partner of mine, bring, their 2-3 Latino agents that they didn't even know NAHREP existed. So those kind of things are really easy things you can do. And I know Eddie, for example, will always be there to support that, make sure that if you guys, need the time, the resources, or the information, he's there to help you with us or any other organization, that's what I would say. And then I know we're talking about NAHREP right now, but one of the biggest things that I did when I started doing events with NAHREP was I realized that I personally belong to a bunch of different communities. As human beings, we are part of different groups. We're not all under one label. So for me, I found interest in a bunch of different organizations. I have friends who are leaders of different organizations, and I didn't understand why we have, all these different groups, but we never really come together that much. And so during that year that I did in conjunction with Raquel, who was president at the time, Raquel Lavender, there was an event that we created called All Around the World, and it brought together the 5 diversity groups under the National Association of Realtors. So you have 5 organizations that represent Latino, Black, Asian, women, and LGBTQ. Those 5 organizations already live under the National Association of Realtors, and we brought them together for one event. And we found that we're so similar and so not similar. We found that some of the lending needs, for example, are different between communities. For some people, they have this challenge, and for others, that's not the problem. Problem is, blank. And we found all that out. And so I say that to
You say that I was a problem?
What's that?
You said the problem was Blaine?
Oh, yes. Blaine was the problem. 100%. Yeah, but I mean, really, we found that, there's so much to talk about. So I always encourage, if it's not NAHREP that inspires you, that's okay. If you have a connection to a different community, go do that same type of work. It's just all of us coming together that are going to slowly start turning this wheel to find the solutions, like, issues with inventory, right? I mean, that's going to be an everyone problem. So that's how I think we kind of get to that.
And that's what we went to the Fern Bank for, right?
Yes, Fernbank was the All Around the World. That was our first event that we did in person this year. We had to wait until Q3. And we decided, we actually moved that event from where it happened regularly during the year to be our like coming out like with a bang, you know. I mean, that is one of our biggest events. It happens. We used to do it at World of Coke. Uh, I'm gonna pat myself on the back here as events because it was all the Cokes from around the world. You get it?
Yeah,
There you
you had
go.
that Beverly drink.
Right. So everyone could go and taste, but unfortunately we grew out of that stadium or the auditorium. And so now we have to move to like the IMAX stadium over at Fernbank, but it's an incredible event. NAHREP networks like no one else. We make sure that we do the educational portion, and then we treat it like a wedding. We then move to the reception, because what I always say is business sometimes happens on the golf course, but for us, business happens on the dance floor.
Right.
So we make sure we have a DJ, we've got lighting, and we've got all of our sponsors there, really being able to connect on a different level with our members, with our guests, and then we can promote that, you know, networking and word a lot easier.
I was gonna try to find a picture from that event because we brought like 16, 17, 18 people that to this event. It was so much fun. But I don't have our group pic. I just have a picture.
While you're looking for that, thank you, Chrissy. I see your message. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was just gonna show a little bit of it, but I just have
Yeah, I mean,
I just got a video of LA dancing, but here's a picture of us from the
yeah,
event. So we were we had so much fun, and so thank you. So it was really great because we learned a lot, and I learned about associations I didn't know. So thank you for that too.
absolutely.
I am so grateful that you carry on here. You have such a great, kind, and positive personality. Like I say, I love this about you. Every time I saw you and I see you everywhere you go, you are just so real and so kind. So that is something that's really important to me. So thank you for doing that. But for the struggle well thing, right? We struggle well, but you can't always be 100%, right? You can't always be up. And I'm going to move the conversation from NAHREP, which is why I wanted you on. And it just so happened to be that National Hispanic Heritage Month happened at the same time that I was like, hey, can you be on this day? And it just like was the synergy moment, because I was like, I wanted to get you and NAHREP in front of us at EPM so that people would understand this is an opportunity. This is something that we do. This is something we partner with. So thank you for doing that. But also you are just a super great person. So thank you for that. But how do you keep it going on those days you're not 100% when you just want to, lay on your sofa and like binge watch something on Netflix? Like, how do you keep it going?
Yeah, that's a super timely question, I think, as well with the times.
Right.
We are still recovering from a pandemic and quarantine in a way that I don't think anyone would have expected. I know a lot of people that I have talked to. That was one of my goals when we went into this. I thought about how this is going to affect people. I mean, not just people like me who, I live on my own, I have my own place, so for me, it's a different, but then the struggle as a couple with 2, 3, 4 kids, or a single parent with kids, or their 3 dogs. There's so many situations at home. And that was one from the beginning of quarantine, decided, okay, well, I can't go out there, can't meet with my clients, can't meet with my friends, can't meet with my partners that keep me motivated. I couldn't see my family for a while. I mean, like all of us, we couldn't see our parents or family. Those are my motivators, And so when we entered into this weird world that we, had to live in and are still recovering from, there is a sense of how do we still spread this? And I appreciate your words, and I do try. It's intentional. I really do work hard at trying to spread the love and joy that I have and I enjoy in my life, and try to share it. So for me, one of the ways was finding ways to still share that. I did. You can go through my social media on Facebook or Instagram, and you'll see I did everything from dancing in front of people to starting a karaoke challenge where I was tagging people to like sing a song like I did in my living room. All those fun things. And of course, with work, it was still my goal to inform people. Sorry, you were going to say?
I'm sorry. I just want to interrupt you and say, can you on the spot do a karaoke song right now? Like, can you, like,
you know what? Let's tease it for the outro. How about maybe for the outro? I can't even make promises, but I'm going to get out of that one that way right now. But no, I did, I figured out that even in business too, we can still make it fun. So, I started doing little market reports. And of course, as you guys know, you've been kept busy. Last year was an incredible year with interest rates where they were and some of the opportunities we had in Georgia. So all that work actually came and really, tripled and my business without even knowing. I was just trying to spread, kind of some positivity and things like that. And what it ended up being was people saw that I was still active, I was still working, I was still knowledgeable. And so, that's how I kind of continued to stay motivated. And of course, I think just karma and the way the world works is if you put in that work, if you put it out there, not even work, but if you just put out like who you are and your true self and what you really want to spread, I think it comes back to you. And so business wise, it did, that's just one example. But apart from that, just on a daily, it's little things for me. I have my, things that remind me of my family. When people ask me, what my favorite things to do or hobbies and stuff, honestly, with the little time I have extra apart from real estate and NAHREP and all that, my answer is always just time with family and friends. So whether it's, a nice patio with a drink and hanging out on a nice rooftop or a nice spot in our amazing city, or if it's a game night at my house, or karaoke with my parents at their house, or time at the pool with friends. I mean, that really is my motivator. And all the little things, music, I keep music around for me. And then I have little things like this is a perfect example, like things that motivate you. Like this is a thing I'm proud of. I was a capper for my company this year, and they send a mug, and guess what, I'm going to purposely use that mug because as I'm sitting here tired, I'll look at that and I'll go, that's a little bit of motivation. Keep your awards around. People think it's a little corny, like keep it in your office. That's something you earned. That's something that we forget about on a bad day, or a deal's crashing and we realize, what, this is one of boom, how many I've done before, or how many families I've helped. So all those things I think are motivators. It's kind of the little things, honestly, for me.
That So I've been writing down some of the things that you've said just to kind of summarize in the end. And so I want to kind of, but I want to go back because I missed it. You said when I asked you for like tips on investing or like how you get started, you said always ask something.
The ask, yeah. You
Make
always
me ask.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure there's a prettier way of saying it, but
Oh, I like
ultimately,
the way you said it.
I
Make the
usually say
ask.
you make the ask. I mean, you've got to do it. If you don't do it, you can be that perfect example. You can be that lender that comes up to me and introduces yourself, right? And I appreciate that, or that says thank you for inviting me to this event, or thank you for blank. But then if the ask isn't, hey, I'd love to talk about business, I'm not going to take it there because, I mean, this industry, you have partners and all that, but you have to make that ask. It's the same thing in life. And I think if you are, if you want something, you got to be intentional about it. That word intentional is very important to me because we can join organizations like this and we can be part of them and we can go to board meetings and we can go to the events. But again, are we being intentional about what we're doing? Are we really focused on the mission? Are we bringing our friends? Are we bringing our family members? Are we bringing our fellow partners? Are we bringing our agents to these type of events where they can benefit? And in the end, benefit will come out of it. You're sitting there with someone, but if you don't ask that, if it's just oh wow, I didn't know I was going to see you at this event, you could have actually made that happen. That person was already there. You could have made that connection from the beginning and created something a lot more special. So you've got to make that ask.
I love it. So these are some of the things that you said that I just want to reiterate to those watching. Okay.
Yeah.
So always make the ask, chase happiness.
Mhm.
Are you coming from a place of love? Ask yourself, are you coming from a place of love? Invest in the things that you like, spend time with your loved ones and be intentional.
Yes,
And
I'm
that's just,
hiring you to write my book for sure. You
you
have
know, this is,
summarized it all so well. Yes, all of
these
that.
are all of the things that you've said that outside of just NAHREP and getting connected and giving back to the community, right? That comes from a place of love. So for you, in a place of lifting others up around you, it's not just about you. I love this about you, Manny. But these are the things that you've said, and these are things that we can take away just from like being a person. Thank you. Always make the ask is something that's really empowering to me. So to be reminded of that, like it's okay to ask. Like always make the ask. Like you don't know what you don't know, but you can know more if you ask.
You miss an opportunity. I mean, and this can go as big as business, right? As big as a partnership, as big as a sponsorship, depends what circle you're in, but it can be as small as even like I have friends who have run into celebrities, right, in Atlanta or wherever they are, and their story is, man, I wish I would have asked. I regretted not going to ask for the picture. Sure, they probably could have said no. Sure, you could have been that annoying person that asked for it, but if you don't ask, you never know, and then you regret little things, and life is not worth those little regrets. So, I mean, that's just a tiny example of it, but it works for everything.
We are like wrapping up our hour here. We have a few more minutes. What is Yeah, so thank you. Like I'm going to say thank you a million times. I'd greatly appreciate you being on here. So what is our takeaway from you today? When we leave here today and we feel like we've been empowered, because we have, thank you. What is our takeaway from you, right? Like, what do we need to remember from you?
Spreading it, keep spreading it. Find a way to either remember this moment or play that favorite song. Find that little trinket that makes you happy. I have one that reminds me of my grandfather a lot. We used to watch, and this is for maybe people out there in Latino America, or you can Google it, but Chespirito, it's a show. It's kind of like a Lucille Ball type thing. I mean, he was this incredible actor that created this, world around him. We used to watch it with my grandfather, and I have one of the little pop figurines, that's El Chavo del Ocho, who's one of the characters on it. And I keep it, in my office, and I keep it around me. And it's just those little things, you can keep those moments, those good memories, those positive things around you. So I think that's obviously important. That would be, I think, the takeaway is find a way. We're all in this industry. We get caught up in it. There are, the deadlines. There's the end of the month where you don't want to see my name coming up on your phone because it's probably not a good thing. Or I'm just stressed, or the client's stressed, and we got to have things that keep us motivated during those times. Or we have things like, pandemics and big struggles that may come up, or, health, that kind of thing. We got to stay positive through those, keep those people around you that help motivate you, I think is the biggest thing. Yeah.
Thank you for letting us come into your cozy home today. We really appreciate that, with your little puppy behind you. What did you say before? You said it's the only puppy you could have right now, right?
It's the only puppy I can handle right now, time-wise. So yeah, he's my little buddy right there. Yeah.
Right, yeah, behind you, yeah. But thank you so much for being on today. You have made me feel so good and very calm too. So thank you, Manny, for bringing this like very like calm energy to us. That feels empowering. Sometimes, you feel like you got to be like a burst of energy when you're empowered. But this has been for me, just like, oh, thank you so much. So now we know. Thank you for giving us. Spread it, invest in it, give it what you got. Keep the mindset up. Do the things that you need to do for yourself. Chase that happiness, and always make the ask, right?
Absolutely.
And now we're going to turn it over to you to give a little karaoke as you give us out.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, there is.
I
You
couldn't
can
forget.
go to the social media. There's some on there. You can go to some reels. I think there exists some proof that that happens. But no, I also, just real quick, if I can add this. So with NAHREP, we have a couple events coming up, and equity, again, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate EPM and Eddie's support in particular. Y'all are title sponsors for the next two events that are coming up. So come and support not just our family, but your family as well. So we have our big gala that happens at the end of the year. We don't play. We have about a 12-person band coming to play. It's an absolutely incredible time. So please come out to that. And that is December 3rd. December 3rd is the gala. And then our next event is actually Women of Wealth. And again, we're all about empowerment, so it works out perfectly here. But that event is one where we empower women, and we want to bring them to a panel that really is an incredible example of wealth. And the way we measure wealth isn't just the money. It's how their lives have changed, what they've done to make those changes, whether it's their lives or others. And that is October 27th. October 27th. And that is a brunch actually that happens atop downtown Atlanta at Ventanas, overlooks the whole city and skyline. It's incredible. So please come check us out on those dates. And like I said, not just support our familia, but the EPM familia, because y'all invest a lot in us and we appreciate it.
So last things last, drop the social handles or the websites or things like that. So when we watch this again, we can make sure we can go find you, right? So
Yeah.
you, NAHREP, what is the social handles?
So mine is Manny Sells ATL, MANNYSELLS ATL on Instagram, Manny Recinos on Facebook, and then NAHREP is NAHREP Atlanta on Facebook. And then if you want information on just NAHREP in general, nahrep.org is probably your best place to go. We have a conference coming up. I know, I definitely know Eddie will be there. You know, he's on the national board, and I'm excited to see y'all there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
This is the one in San Diego,
Yep.
the national. Yeah, but yeah, Eddie's going to be interviewing Gary V. This is coming up in a few weeks. So
Cardi B, wow, I'm excited.
not Cardi B, Gary V. Somebody. Cardi B, funny. Okay.
Yeah, I can play with the names as well, man.
You did. You got me. And you got me. Thank you so much, Manny, for being on today and talking about NAHREP and how we can help you out and just help out the world. Can you do a little dance by saying, Alexa, play Mark Anthony right now?
A whole dance. Wow, y'all
Yeah,
are.
and I will, as soon as you start, I will end this meeting for everybody. So they, you know.
I know, yeah, it'll happen in a minute. I
So
really appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much for the invite. If you see me around the halls of EPM, because we're out there a good bit, you know, we'll see you out there. Shout out to Frank and Jorge Ramos and Luke over there. I love y'all. The team, you guys are always so supportive. So thank you.
And they're at NAMBA today, which is,
yes,
you know, so, all right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks again.
Bye, everybody.